do it. So when you acquire what we call pious merits from pious activities, it's like a bank account. You keep, just as when you go to the bank after you receive your paycheck, after you expended so much of it, you then go and you put some of the bank money in the bank. You begin to build an account, and the account keeps building and building and building. And then at some point in time, you might be able to buy a house, or you might be able to buy a car, you might be able to buy something, an airplane or a boat. But that comes as a result of going to work, and as you go to work, you keep accumulating these funds, which then permit you to get or achieve what you wanted to achieve. Okay? So the same thing happens if you wanted to be the top basketball star, or you wanted to be an Academy Award artist. You need to acquire some pious activities along with the strong desire. Because it is when you achieve these, you acquire these pious credits. It's like, as I said, it's in the bank, as you put money in, it's a credit which you can use to buy things. Similarly, pious credits can be used to accomplish certain goals that you may not have accomplished in this life. When you have enough pious credits, then what happens is God makes an arrangement for you to be often born, not always, but quite often, and it's very convenient if you are born in a family. For example, you want to be a great basketball star. So it's very useful to be born in a family in which everybody's at least 6'5" or 6'8". I mean, it helps definitely. Not necessarily, but so that's one thing. It's also good if you're born in a family in which they're definitely interested in basketball, so that when you are a child, when you're 3 or 4 years old, you're handed a basketball and you see your father he's playing ball, and your mother playing ball, and your uncles are playing ball. You naturally take to it, just like a little duck sees its mother duck paddling in the water. It jumps into the water and starts paddling and joins all the ducks. So similarly, you begin to get involved in basketball, and you get to learn it from the time that you're a child, and and then you get on the team in what they call junior varsity, and then you get on the team in high school, and you do very well because you've been doing it. And not only that, but God gives you the grace to not only have the height, but to have the agility, to have the stamina that it takes to go through a full basketball game. And he also gives you the ability to be able to sink baskets. I mean, you've got the hands to do it. You've got the mind to do it, the perception to do it. So what happens is that you become a star. In fact, there was an interview with this particular basketball player, Kobe Bryant, and he mentioned that that's exactly what he would do. He would just play all day, even in the evening, and he would never stop, but he would figure out different moves, different types of plays. He would watch some of the great stars, and he would emulate them. And as we can see, he became an all-star. But it didn't suddenly happen. It happened from the time he was a little kid. And similarly, that very great, well-known golf star, what is his name?
Tiger Woods.
Yeah, Tiger Woods. Similarly, he started when he was 4 years old. His father put a club in his hand. So this does not happen by accident. It doesn't happen by chance. The desire was there. The pious credits were there. And as a result of both of those coming together, one got the family, one got the heredity that you needed, one got all the necessary physical, mental, and abilities to be able to do that and become proficient in that particular field. So all of us are coming back with a particular karmic reaction. We did things in the past, we desired things in the past, and we are getting the fruit of them in either greater or lesser degree in the present. Nothing is coming by accident, although it may appear to be that, but it is not an accident at all. The Lord, or God, Krishna, that's just another name of God, he is the engineer behind making the arrangements for us. So that's a very important principle, that what we are today is the result of what we did yesterday. When I say yesterday, I don't mean today being Saturday, I don't mean Friday. I mean yesterday in our previous lifetime. We acquired a certain amount of pious credits, and we are getting the fruits. We also acquire a certain amount of impious credits. Lying, maybe stealing, maybe yeah, well, I was going to mugging people, or you might murder somebody, or it could be something very steal. It could be a pickpocket. You could have done any different type of sinful, or what we call criminal or offensive type of activity, which you didn't get punished for in your past life, and that's because you had enough things to deal with in your previous life, which had to be fulfilled then. It's like a program card. When you go to school, they give you a program, and there's only so much room on the program for so many subjects. So you go through those subjects. Similarly, your program card for this lifetime is the result of what you did in the past, and now you will get the fruit, the result of what you did in the past in this particular present body. So that's the way it works in terms of desire, in terms of ambition, in terms of yearning. In that way, we receive particular parents, as I said, who will either guide us or direct us. We have to teach you to levitate.
Read smaller.
Yeah. I won't be the one, that's it. So, anyway, what has to be done is that we put in the time that it will take. Like if you want to get education in undergraduate school, whatever, it might be engineering, it may be liberal arts, it may be it could be science, but you have to go through the courses, and then you have to pass the examinations. And after you pass your examinations, then you become qualified to either stay there, or you can go and take a master's. And when you finish the master's, you then become qualified to take a Doctor of Philosophy degree. So each gives you a qualification to go to a higher and higher level. And similarly, you may be what we call a run-of-the-mill actor, but as you begin to acquire pious credits, you may go in the next life, because you still desire to be that Academy Award, and you want to get abilities that would enable you to achieve that. So that's the first thing. We come back because of desires. We want things. We yearn for these things. We are frustrated because we never obtained what we wanted. And that desire, which the stronger it is, the more it propels us to try and get that thing. And we'll go into the process of how you come back to this earth. But let me just finish the second. The second point is that we have certain karmic credits and demerits. I sort of just briefly touched upon it a few moments ago. You do bad things, you do wrong things, you do sinful things, offensive things, you hurt people, or you harm people, or you calumniate, or you say spiteful things, you're malicious, you can have all that, okay? And then you do good things. You say nice things about people. You help them. The blind lady going across the street, you take her by the arm, you help her. I'm just giving examples. Or a person is having a problem in his studies, and he can't handle the arithmetic, and you're really good at it, and you just volunteer to help the person, and he ends up getting like an A, and he was getting a D before. So you helped him become something that he wasn't. And you did this just out of your goodness of your heart. So the good things and the bad things are there. So very often we do things with the desire. When we do something good, sometimes in our mind we may think, I hope somebody helps me like this. Maybe in the future, when I become old, maybe somebody will prepare my food, or when I become old, maybe somebody will drive me in my car. In other words, we're desiring some kind of a return for what we got. We're not demanding it, but we are desiring it. It happens. Or we do something for our children. We feed them and we clothe them, we shelter them, we educate them, we medicate them as is necessary. And in the back of our mind, we sometimes think, when I'm really old, I hope my kid will remember what I've done for him or her, so that I'm just not left in the old man or old lady's home to just rot away, like just a dead piece of flesh. So there's this little personal motivation which happens to be there, and it may be in all of us, and it may not be also. The point I'm trying to bring out is it brings us back to this world to get what we feel we deserve to get from what we did in the past. And it becomes a strong motivating force. So, for example, let us say you had a child, and you gave everything to your child, and you took good care of him, put him or her through university, they got masters, but you always desired that somehow the child would somehow take care of you. So what happens is you died what we might call untimely or prematurely, and so you never got the experience of your. Oops, thank you. You never got the experience of your kid taking care of you, and you had that desire. You wanted him to take care of you in your old age. So, but what happens is you're born. I'm just giving a hypothetical example. You're born as his child because he grows up, and now you come back as his kid. You don't know it, and he doesn't know it, but God knows it, and he puts you in that arrangement. And now your kid is payback time. He's feeding you, he's clothing you, he's sheltering you, he's educating you, medicating you. He's giving you all the things that you wanted to get from him, but which you never got because you died prematurely. And if it's a strong desire, well then, you're definitely going to come back as something. Now, it may be a human being, or it may be you could come back as the family dog. Nobody likes to do that, but the dogs really get good treatment in some homes, better than the humans. I mean, just think, people put them on their lap and they pet them, they hug them, they kiss them right on the snoot, they feel that little cold thing that hit your nose, and they rub them, and then they talk so sweet, like they never even talk to a human being. Oh, you're a good boy. All that, and comb their hair with their fingernails, and rub their back, and then put them on their back, and then rub their stomach, and the dog is doing all like this, with his hand, and he's just eating it up, and he's enjoying like anything. And here, he was... now he's getting the fulfillment of, he doesn't remember, he doesn't have to, but he's just enjoying what he wanted to get in a previous life. Is everyone clear on these particular points that I'm talking about? So, in other words, there's a very good chance that if you have those desires from your wife or your son, it was a very interesting movie. Did anybody ever see the movie called Fluke? Okay, a lot of people didn't see it, but it was I recommend it very highly for this particular subject. It just happened to be that there was a man gets into an automobile accident, and he has a strong attachment to his family, and he comes back as a dog. And he's very attached, especially to his son. You see, and the son immediately takes a liking to him. They can't figure out the invisible electricity that's going back and forth from them, because there's a connection there already. And they love one another. But the wife, what happens is that, he's been dead for, like 6 months, and she's taking up with another man now. So the dog doesn't like that, because, after all, that was his wife before, now. So he starts barking at the new suitor. Not only barking, but he jumps at him. So anyway, the point I'm trying to bring out is that we often carry from our previous life into this life, and we may not even remember, we may not even be able to connect consciously. A person who's a very advanced soul can remember those things, and I could tell many stories from our scriptures in which that happens. So those are the first 2 points that I want to make. We come back to fulfill our ambitions that have been unfulfilled in the past. We also come back to reap the credits that we have set forth in motion in our previous life. We wanted, I just gave an example, you wanted to be loved by your kids, and now the dog who is loved, or you may come back as his child, and he's loved, he hugs you, he talks nicely to you, he takes you to the park, he takes you out and plays ball with you, or if it's a daughter, he takes you to the different things that, girls like to do, maybe go to certain movies. But there's a very nice camaraderie which takes place between father and daughter, or father and son, and you're getting what you desired, you see. And sometimes we actually feel, it's almost a deja vu experience. You get this sense that I've been with this person before. For example, my cousin Susan, she told me that she had a dog, and we got to talk a little about this subject, and she said, I have absolutely no doubt that my father, who happened to have been my dentist, by the way, my father became my dog. I said, how did you know? But just by the way he looked at me. That dog looked at me the same way my father used to look at me. I said, well, how is that? She says, I can't explain it to you, but it was a certain look that he had. So, anyway, reincarnation serves the purpose. It allows us to fulfill desires and to reap credits and reap demerits. Let me give a very good example of an actual story that I saw on television. A man, he was accused of rape, by a woman. She said, this man, he was brought in, and he was in a lineup, and she says, yes, that's the man. They asked, are you sure that he's the man? He says, how could I not be sure? His face was right next to my face. He said, well, you're in a state of complete anxiety and confusion and fear, almost a paroxysm of fear. She says, no, I saw that is the man who did it. So somehow she was able to convince the jury, and the man, thank you, the man received, let's put it over there. The man he was sentenced to about 40 years to go to prison. Now the man denied. He said, I never had any such. I never did that. I've never committed a crime in this lifetime for sure. Anyway, he went to prison, and in the 11th year of his prison sentence, lo and behold, the actual man who had committed the rape was in that prison, and they were in the yard, and sometimes prisoners brag about the crimes they committed, which they got away with. Which, it's a form of pride, like, hey, I did this, and they never caught me because I outsmarted them. It's kind of a thing like that. So he's bragging to a few of his buddies, and meanwhile, the guy who's been spent 11 years there, for having committed a crime that he didn't do, he's listening to this whole thing. And he says, that's the guy. He's the one. And the way the guy was describing it, it was the name of the woman, where the apartment was, where the neighborhood it was in. So he immediately called his lawyer and got on the phone. He says, the actual person who committed the crime, he's right here in this prison. Well, during the time that the accusation came and the sentence came, there was no DNA testing. DNA testing is, it's a thing of the last 10, 12 years or so. There was no DNA testing at that time, although they had sperm samples and things like that, but they couldn't match up. So what happened is that the lawyer, the defense attorney, he went and he subpoenaed the evidence that had been stored in the police files, and he brought it to the laboratories where the DNA is analyzed, and sure enough, it was the DNA of the man who was bragging in the penitentiary. So this man who had been wrongly accused and wrongly sentenced, his sentence was immediately ended, and he was allowed to go completely free. And interestingly enough, this took place right on television, and the woman who had accused him was made to confront, she wasn't forced, she wanted to actually, to confront the man whom she had charged unjustly and wrongly. And when she saw him there, all she could do is she just broke down into tears. After all, he spent 11 years for doing a crime that he didn't do. 11 years for a crime that he didn't do. So, and she apologized profusely. I mean, she was in convulsive tears. And he said, don't worry about it. That's the way. He was very religious, too. That's the way God worked it out. I don't know what I did. As far as I know, I didn't do anything to deserve it. But God has his own mysterious reasons for doing things. And that even made her cry harder, because he totally forgave her. And so the question comes to people sometimes, well, why does a person have to suffer 11 years? I've already given the answer, but I'd like to clarify and emphasize it a little bit more. That he may have raped a woman in a previous lifetime, for which he never paid the price. Was never apprehended by the police, never went to prison, and yet he had this karmic reaction. We call it a reaction, something that you have to reap, a demerit that you have to pay for. It's like when you're in school, you know, you talk out of turn, or the teacher has her back turned, and you start you make a spitball, and you throw it, and you hit her right in the head, and everybody starts laughing. And then she turns around and everybody's pointing to the guy who threw the spitball with the finger. And then she said, did you do it? And he said, no, I didn't. You did it. Bring your mother to school. Otherwise, you're not coming back to this class. So reprimanding and also in front of his mother, told what he had done and so forth. And mother maybe didn't allow him to have some Snicker bars for that day, whatever. Or whatever or ice cream could be. So the important point is that he couldn't be punished in that previous life because he had so many things which have to be done in a life. For example, you're born, you grow up, you go to school, you acquire certain degrees sometimes, you get certain kinds of jobs. These are all scheduled. You get married, you have a wife, you have so many kids that you're going to have. So many reactions are going to take place with your kids. Some of your kids are going to love you. Maybe some of your kids are going to hate you. Due to karmic reactions from the past. You don't even understand why this boy and girl, they love you. All they want to do is buy you things. And this boy and girl, all they want to do is throw things at you. And you can't figure it out. But again, karmic reaction. What did you do to this person and this one in the past life? What did you do to these two? Did some nice things to these persons, and therefore you're getting ice cream and candy and beautiful clothes from those who love you, and then you're getting curse words from those who don't like you. So the schedule is there. Couldn't get punished for the rape that you performed in that previous lifetime, but it's got to be paid for. Nothing goes unpaid for in God's justice. And sometimes we cannot figure it out. People will say, well, he was an innocent man. He went to prison for 11 years. Where is the justice of God? There is no justice. There is no mercy. The man had to endure 11 years in an environment which he didn't deserve to be in. So, but he did deserve. He did deserve. He deserved it in his previous life. But as I said, there was no room on the schedule. So it had to be scheduled for this lifetime. And in this lifetime, he got the karmic reaction. Interestingly enough, the man developed a very strong religious inclination. And that religious inclination helped him in his being able to forgive the woman who had accused him wrongly. So there's a very good example of how this karmic action and reaction takes place. Nothing happens based on what Krishna says throughout the Gita. He mentions that nothing happens by accident. And we come back. There are a number of verses in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Whatever state of being one remembers, when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Now what does that mean? Well, first of all, the first part is, whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me, meaning Krishna, he will go to Krishna. And that's why Krishna is encouraging us throughout our lifetime to remember him, to think about him, to read about him. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances. Worship me. Thus completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. He says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer and give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do this as an offering unto me. He said, give it to me. Don't keep it for yourself. That'll only increase your selfishness. It'll increase your self-love. But if you learn to love me, Krishna says, you will get my reward. And that reward will be, as he says, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path. What is the reward? The reward is inner joy, inner peace, inner strength, inner love. And when you have inner peace, inner joy, inner strength, inner love, and these wonderful feelings, which we call transcendental or exalted, you're always happy. You're always in a state of fulfillment. There's no longing, there's no hankering, there's no lamenting, as a materialist will have. A materialist wants somebody, doesn't get it, he's frustrated. Then he's anxious whether he'll get it. Or if he gets it, now he's anxious that he may lose it. And after he loses it, if he does lose it, now he's lamenting whether we'll get it again. It's endless, like going back and forth. There's no peace. There's no rest for the mind. There's no calmness. There's no serenity. There's none of that. It's a life of anxiety, uncertainty, doubt, and just being pushed by the waves of what we call karma and guna. Guna means the qualities. There are 3 qualities that operate in this universe. The quality of goodness, the quality of passion, and the quality of ignorance. And we all have them in different degrees. When a person is pervaded by the quality of ignorance, then he just likes to sleep all the time. And he can't think very well. And he may be very dull, kind of like this. Dullsville, you see. That's mode of ignorance. I'm not saying anybody like that here, but I'm saying we all have little bits of it. Sometimes you want to just sleep for 12 hours or 13 hours, when really you could be doing something much more constructive. But who wants to do anything constructive? I just want to rest and take it easy. Sit back. None of you, but people in the world get a batch of 6-packs and just lie back and just drink them, for the night. So the important point is that we have to. The important point is that karma. Every moment we are forming karmic reaction. That's beautiful. I feel like I'm in some Tibetan monastery. Okay, I will wait. I will defer to you. The next thing that comes out, oh. Anyway, it's very nice. I like it. So anyway, we don't want to get overly serious in this subject. We have to have a little what we call comedy relief, I hope. So anyway, this is the important point that we make our destiny. We make our destiny by virtue of our choices. Now, I was mentioning the mode of ignorance, now the mode of passion. Mode of passion makes you super ambitious. You want to be big, you want to be great, you want to be, you want to earn millions of dollars, you want to have big Mercedes. You want fame, you want fortune, you want to be better than everybody else, you want to be able to trounce everyone. You're envious. These are the qualities of passion. And then there's the quality of goodness, which I've already mentioned before. You like to do good things. You want to do humanitarian things, philanthropic things. You want to help the poor. Poor, we have to have her lower. Yeah. You want to do things for the poor. You want to do things for the ill or the sick. You want to help them, want to relieve them. And this is your love. In the mode of goodness, love manifests through you. You have a child. It's so natural for a mother to give love to the child. You see, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to go to school for it. It's just natural. It's a part of our nature to love our children. It's also a part of our nature to love God. But unfortunately, what has happened is that instead of loving God, first of all, let me just backtrack for a few seconds. Originally, we were all in an eternal world, a spiritual world. And in the eternal or spiritual world, everyone glorified God, honored God, celebrated God, served the Lord. Everyone considered God to be most and glorious, most beautiful. He's a person. However, as living entities, we have independence. We are part and parcel of God, part and parcel of Krishna. What does independence mean? Independence means I can get up now and walk out if I want, but I won't. Because you all come for a reason, and I want to fulfill and satisfy that reason. So my choice is to stay here. But we all have independence. Now, if you get bored and you want to go to sleep, you can just close your eyes and go to sleep, and the clock will wake you up. You're no different. Everything has been already set up. So, yes, the clock will wake you up. Or did I hear a little cuckoo?
Yeah, it's over here.
Well, the clock doesn't. So the cuckoo bird will get you. Yeah, you can't escape it if you want to. So anyway, the important point is this: is that these three modes work upon us, and they determine our personality. You will see that certain persons are very kind, very beneficent, very warm, very loving, very serving. They like to serve. They like to perform service without any desire for a return. This is called selfless service. So originally we were in the eternal world, as I mentioned. Now, in the eternal world, everybody served Krishna. Nobody got a paycheck. There were no unions up there, by the way. The payment was your bliss. The payment was your peace. The payment was your strength. The payment was your delight in seeing God delighted by your service. That was your payment. Nonetheless, because we have independence, we can decide at any given time to not serve. If you don't want to serve God, He doesn't force you. We're here, He's not coming down and saying, hey, you got to worship me, you got to serve me, you got to love me. He's not doing that. I don't preach that way either. I don't say, you got to love God. No, you don't got to anything. You do what you want to do because you have free will. But what we preach about is, if you want to be peaceful, you want to be joyful, you want to be fulfilled, you want to be satisfied, you want to be inwardly happy. As Krishna says, one whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is the perfect mystic. He's liberated in the Supreme Lord, and ultimately he attains the Supreme Lord. He also says a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure where? Within. In this way, the self-realized soul enjoys unlimited happiness here, for he concentrates on the Supreme Lord. You can concentrate on the Lord in the form of His name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. You can, in His form, you can look at these beautiful pictures that we have of Krishna. His name, His form. You can think about His qualities. You can think about his pastimes, his activities, such as we have some of the books which I have on the table. I've written a book called The Supreme Mystic. It's an entry-level book about Krishna's activities. His name, his form, his activities, his paraphernalia, the things. He's got a peacock feather. You can meditate on his peacock feather. He plays a beautiful flute. You can meditate on his beautiful flute. Anything you do to focus, concentrate, and connect with Krishna, what that will do, it will arouse within you, in your heart, the desire to love him. Now, what's the whole point of it all? Why should you love him? The only reason to love him is so that you can get rid of this whole compulsive desire to come back life after life after life, experiencing the miseries of material existence. Birth, death, disease, old age, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and miseries which come from our own body and mind. We get diseases. We get accidents. Did anybody like or enjoy getting the flu for 3 weeks there, and you can hardly walk? You don't get to eat. That's just one example. Or you get problems in your lungs. You get older. You get problems in your joints, your elbows, your neck. All of these things. You have different problems. Nobody likes that. But anyone who's a human being is heir to them, H-E-I-R. He receives them whether he likes them or not, because it's part of being a human being. Even persons who practice yoga, you can hear creaks in them, and you can hear my creaks, although I am a little bit more agile for my age than most people, because I've been doing yoga for over 55 years. So it helped a lot. Anyway, the important point is that we want to try and transcend this thing called karma, which is forcing us to take birth and get these pains and sufferings that I just mentioned. Wouldn't it be nice to just have no suffering? But that's just not the way it happens. You're a child, I know when I was a child, I had mumps, I had measles, I had all those childhood diseases that we all get. Then you grow up, I got pneumonia, I get some back problems, neck problems, head problems, depression, you name it. I got it. Fortunately, I've been able to overcome all these things by Krishna's mercy and the techniques that we learn through yoga practices, and Hare Krishna. And there's also yoga, that's Bhakti yoga. So there's miseries which come from our own body and mind, miseries which come from other living entities. Sometimes a person just out of the clear blue, you're walking along and you just bought a new, you have a new car, and then you park it, and then somebody just comes over and says, "What an ugly looking car." Nothing, you didn't say anything to provoke it. Or he says, "You got an ugly looking nose." Did anybody tell you that? Or you look stupid. Or anything of such. Out of nowhere it comes. And you feel insulted. You feel disturbed. What did I do to him? It comes in and just out of nowhere. So the point is this, other living entities are impacting upon us. Sometimes we get nice things too, not just the bad things that I just mentioned. Things which disturb us or upset us or shake us or rattle us. So the result is that we get miseries from other living entities. Sometimes a dog bites you. Just walking down the street, it takes a... That came on cue.
Absolutely.
Is there a dog? Is that a real dog?
2 dogs outside.
Well, he heard his name.
3 dogs.
I was talking about him, though he wanted to get into it. Okay. So dogs, they'll take a bite out of you, even though it's unprovoked. Or you go into the water, and a shark takes a chunk out of part of your body that you don't particularly like. You don't ask for these things, but they come. This is the miseries of material existence. You don't plan for these things, but Krishna gives you your karmic reactions, the things you deserved as a result of doing certain things in the past. He's in charge. He sees everything. He's omniscient. Omniscient means he knows everything. Omnipresent means he's everywhere present. His eyes are all over through the super soul, or with the Catholics or they call the Holy Ghost. So he's everywhere present. He knows everything. And he's all powerful. So he can give you your karma, and you can't do or say anything because he's all powerful. Even though we have independence, and you can exercise it, but he can stop you from exercising your independence. As I speak now, somebody is losing his voice. As I speak now, somebody's losing his vision. As I speak now, somebody's hand is starting to shake. As I speak now, somebody is becoming crippled and hit by a car. All these things are going on. I just given you a fraction of what's going on in this world. As I speak now, somebody who thought he was in great health because he just went to the doctor yesterday and they did a full checkup on him, and he was walking and swinging his arms and singing, zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay, my oh my, what a wonderful day. And he thinks everything is perfect, everything is hoop-de-doo, and boom, he gets an angina, collapses to the floor and to the ground and dies immediately. Right now, that's happening to. We have billions of people in this world. But we don't ever think that will happen to us. That's because that's what we call ignorance. It can happen to us. It's happening to someone now. And it comes from this idea of pride. And let me get on to the next point. So there are miseries which come from other living entities. Then there are miseries which come from the environment, which, for example, we all may have seen on television, Colorado and all the big floods that they're having right now. Miseries which come from the external environment, floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, big downpours, tsunamis. All of these are from nature, and they're all instrumented by God. They were given to us, ideally, to get back in touch with our true Father, our parent, and to depend more on Him than all our technology. Now, technology is a good thing when it's used for the right purpose. But when technology becomes a god to us, when we bow down to it, we worship it, we glorify it. People, when the different new iPods come out, people, they get online, it can go for a half a mile down just to get the latest iPod or to see the latest movie. But if you say, God's appearing, He's going to appear at Radio City Music Hall. Yeah, right. Yeah, God's going to. You and I, you'll get a few cuckoos lining up at the box office, but that's about it. You're not going to get any. Because nobody wants God. Even though the Lord is giving you vision, the Lord is giving you hearing, the Lord is giving you ability to feel with your skin, the Lord is giving you ability to speak, giving you ability to think, to feel, to will. He's giving you all these things. But do we ever feel indebted for that? No, because I deserve it. Why do I deserve it? Well, I am I, the Lord of all I survey. I'm the controller. I'm the dominator. I'm in charge. Until Krishna whacks you over the head and you fall to the ground and you say, hey, wait a minute. Maybe I'm not in charge. Maybe there is a force above and beyond me which is greater and bigger and more powerful than I. That's what the purpose of all these things are. To wake us up. It's an alarm call. To wake us up to the reality. And to help us to understand that you don't have to come back life after life after life experiencing these three kinds of miseries. Miseries which come from your own body and mind. Miseries which come from other living entities. Miseries which come from the cataclysms and catastrophes of nature. You don't have to have that. All you have to do is to do what you dropped off or stopped doing when you left the eternal world. Why did we leave the eternal world? We didn't want to serve Krishna anymore. Didn't want to serve God. Why? Well, we wanted to taste. We wanted to feel what it was like to be served as a Lord. What does it feel like? You become a mother, a father, and you're the Lord of a little girl, a little boy. Mommy, can I have this? Well, I'll think about that. Well, Mommy, can I have this? Well, maybe we will and maybe we won't. Can I tell you the movie? Yeah, you're in charge. You decide. You're the Lord. You go and you get a job. First you start out as an apprentice, then you move up in the system, and after a while you're a foreman, and then after a while you're a secretary, and after a while a secretary of the company. After a while you're a vice president, and people are kowtowing to you, people are begging you, people are looking up to you, people are honoring you, people are toasting to you at the table, and you feel great. You're glorified, or maybe you become a great athlete or a great political. Millions of people shouting your name, millions of people glorifying you, honoring you. And you feel like a lord, but it doesn't last forever. And that's the rub. It lasts only as long as your karmic reaction is going to last. A person may be in political office for 1 term, or maybe 3 or 4 terms, but eventually you're forgotten. Or you may have gotten one or 2 or 3 Academy Awards, but eventually you grow old and maybe you don't get to get those wonderful parts anymore. And so you're confined, I should say, to watching your old movies. A lot of these people who are in these homes for the movie stars, that's what they do. They watch their old movies. When they were in their heyday, there were times, I mean, I go back into the 40s, even the 30s. So if I were to say the name 1940s, Veronica Lake and Alan, everybody would say Ladd. They knew that name because he was a star. And there's so many others, Randolph Scott and Jennifer Jones. She played that movie. She played a part of it. Saint Bernadette.
Yeah, she just passed away.
Huh? Was that?
She just passed away.
Oh, she just passed away. Okay. Anyway, she played the Song of Bernadette. She got an Academy Award for that. Anyway, the important point is that it's a very frustrating thing to have to know that you were in your heyday. Everybody was glorifying you, honoring you, bowing down, and now you don't have it anymore. You're bereft of it. It's like your life has been stolen from you, because that's not real life. Real life is to be in touch with your Creator. The real life is to be in touch with the one who gave you your body, who gives you true joy, who gives you true strength, who gives you courage, who gives you the good qualities of patience, courage, as I said, and patience, and so many other wonderful qualities that we develop. So when we get these from God, we realize that by turning away from God and trying to be a Lord unto ourselves, that what happens is that we just become miserable. Miserable because we're hoping that everyone will honor and glorify and applaud us, and that may happen for a while, but eventually it will stop. And then you become old. And you go to the nursing home, or you go to the hospital, and your life becomes decrepit. And all you think of is the past. And sometimes persons go crazy just reviewing in their minds the past. They can't live without the past. So what Krishna consciousness offers us is an opportunity to live in the present and to be joyful, to be peaceful, to be strong, to be fulfilled, to be happy in the very present, through contact, through association, through connection with the Supreme Lord, who is all blissful, all peaceful, all love. Why did we stop serving the Lord in the eternal world? Because we wanted to feel what it's like to be a Lord. And now that we've become a Lord, in order to come back to our position that we had once in the eternal world, we have to go back to serving God as we once did. And the service has to be loving service. Service in which you desire nothing in return. Because the return really is that God gives you His peace. He gives you His bliss. He gives you His love. And when you have that, you're not worried about anything anymore. It's the more we identify ourselves with our physical body, that's when we become worried. Because It's through the body, the tongue, the eyes, the ears, the nose, that we enjoy different forms of sense pleasure. Now, if my sense pleasure is going to be threatened, what have I got left? If I don't have sense pleasure by tongue, for example, you get a cold. We all had colds. And you can't taste the food. It's terrible because you're cut off from one form of sense pleasure. So you have to wait till you get over the cold and then you can taste the food again. Or you can't hear, you get an earache and everything is stuffed, and you're a music aficionado, you love to hear music, but you can hardly hear from one ear. So it becomes difficult. And when that happens, anytime any of our senses are threatened, then we feel that our life is being threatened. And life becomes frustrating, and then we get depressed. And when you become depressed, what happens? Well, you don't want to live anymore. That's not necessary. It's due to a false identification with this body. Rather, we need to connect with Krishna, with God, with love. Krishna says, one who is not connected with me in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? There's no possibility. So we need to connect with Krishna in Krishna consciousness. And the way that's done is through devotional service, loving devotional service, not mere service. Service is just service. I sometimes see people, they're just doing service, but they don't feel any gratitude. If Krishna gives you a chance, like you go to the temple and you want to do some service there, it's an opportunity. An opportunity to serve God. I'll use that now. And to obtain His blessings. It's an opportunity to gain His blessings. So, therefore, if we want to stop this cycle of reincarnation and all the miseries that come with that birth, death, and rebirth, if we want to put a stop to that, then all we need to do is develop our love for God, for Krishna. And we do that by devotional service. And what is devotional service? It means, first of all, devotion means selfless affection. Selfless means I do it out of love. I don't get paid for it. I just do it because God deserves it. I've already given reasons why He deserves it. Why does He deserve it? Well, He's giving you so much. How could He not deserve it? He's allowing you to see. He's allowing you to taste your food. Allowing you to hear. Not only allowing, but enabling. He's giving you a brain. You can take that away in a second, but He's giving it to you. He's allowing it to go on. So we're indebted. We've got some debts there. So the least we can do to pay off this debt is do something nice, something sweet, something lovable, something that He would appreciate. You can cook something. You can sing a beautiful song, or like this Prabhu over here, he was playing the Hare Krishna mantra. He was devoting it to Krishna. So that's devotional service. Anytime we do something nice for Krishna, He appreciates this and He reciprocates. Reciprocates means He's in the heart. He's not like a million billion miles away. He's right here. And when He feels your love for Him, He's not what you call he's not that kind of like a miser who just takes your love and just stores it up and enjoys it. He gives you back much more than you could ever give to Him. And when He gives that to you, you know it. You feel it. It satisfies you and it fulfills you. Now, one of the ways which I've just mentioned is service. You can serve at the temple, or you can do different kinds of service which are available. Another service is this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra that we were doing before. Another is reading about Krishna's pastimes, but sometimes we don't have enough time to read, or our eyes are tired. So I've recorded all of these. These are different. These are, here comes the tape. It's coming, you know that. So anyway, I've recorded these. These are Srila Prabhupada's books. And I've recorded them. They were done in professional sound studios. And I also did this for a living, broadcasting, years and years ago. So I recorded these So the persons, when they drive in their cars, some people tell me they drive down from San Francisco down to Los Angeles to watch the Rath Yatra. So they hear the whole Ramayana going down, a half of it going one way, and the other half going up the other way. So you get to hear the books. And believe it or not, Srila Prabhupada mentions in his books that hearing is even better than reading or seeing with the eyes because it makes a very firm impression upon the mind. When you see it, especially if it's in light-faced print, we can forget easily. If it's in bold-face, it's easier to remember. And if it's in large print, it's still easier to remember. But the books we read generally are not in that, you don't read letters that high. So, therefore, when you get to hear these different books, the Bhagavatam is recorded, the Bhagavad Gita is recorded, the life of Tulsi Devi, the teachings of Queen Kunti, all of these are recorded here. And you can listen to them in your car, just by putting a disc in. They're done on MP3s. One single disc, 2 discs, 96 hours. 2 discs, 96 hours. 1 disc, the Krishna book, 48 hours. So you can go drive across the country and get the whole Krishna book. I'll take it in just this whole, definitely. I'm coming to the end now.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so you can have any of these. I've also, to make it even a little less expensive for everybody, is I've taken everything that you see on the table, all these discs, and I put them on one USB, like that. And you've got almost 8 gigabytes on this, and you can just plug this into your computer or plug it into your automobile port, USB port, and you can play any one of these different that is on the table. It's very good. It's half the price, and it's very, very. It really went over very big in Washington, Seattle, Washington. That's where they came up with the idea, and then it just we had to buy about 30, 40 of them, and everyone, many of these techies, they love that because a lot of people don't even want discs anymore. So, so that's the bottom line. Let us strive. Let us try hard. Let us endeavor with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, with all our strength to serve God again. And serving means hearing about the Lord. These are 9 forms of devotional service. Hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, remembering Krishna, serving His lotus feet, worshipping Krishna, offering prayers to Krishna, practical devotional service. You go to your jobs. Sometimes people say, well, how do I think of Krishna at my jobs? Krishna says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities you perform, do it for me. And if you do it for me, I'll hear it, I'll remember it, and I'll bless you. So keep a picture of Krishna right on your monitor, or put it on your desk, or put a tattoo of Krishna's initial on your wrist, as I did. I was writing it for years and years, and I got tired of writing it. So I just went to the tattoo artist, and seriously, they just put a K, I wrote the K, and he took the thing, and there it is, forever. So, yeah, every time I look at my watch, that's perfectly cued. I say watch, and the clock goes off. I say dog, and the dog barks. Uncanny. So something mysterious is going on.
Yes.
Must be. I mean, it's a cue for me to keep quiet and say no more. Anyway, that's the important point. The last Hare Krishna. So the important point, as I said, offering prayers to the Lord. Just barked again. Offering prayers to the Lord, and practical service to the Lord, and offering one's body, one's mind, and words to the Lord. Those are 9 forms of devotional service, and when you perform them, you become purified in heart, in your mind, and in your body, and the net result is you become connected with Krishna, and that connection will enable you to feel the peace that you are yearning for, but may not getting, but which Krishna will give. Thank you so much. All glories to your service, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. Now, you were about that.
Well, I was going to give you a chance to enhance your plug of the product by asking how good the quality is, but of the MP3s and all. But I have another question on top of that. Or in addition
Well,
to
the quality is first class quality. We use really good. The only thing in the transfer, they were originally done on tapes, and then they were transferred from tapes onto.
Like what kind of tape, like DAT or like DAT tapes or real?
What I forgot what they call it so long ago. There was it's a chrome tape, I think.
Okay.
It was chrome, yeah. So we used the chrome tapes, and then they were transferred onto WAV files, and then from WAV files they were transferred onto MP3 files. And so occasionally there's a very minor, hardly even noticeable skip because
Tape rolls over.
Yeah, you don't even hear it really. But if you wanted to get that out, it would cost thousands and thousands of dollars. It's very high tech to get those things out. But you won't even notice it because there's music going on in the background, and there's sound effects in many of them. They're done dramatically. We have real lions roaring because we use sound effects. We use so many different crowd sounds were used to give you a you are there experience, so that you're not just listening to something about Krishna, you're actually there watching it as if you were in the scene. Okay? So that's why it's nice. Many years ago, when I was growing up, we didn't have television, we just had radio. And radio meant it was one drama after another. When I got home from school, I never forget, first thing you turn on, Superman, 15 minutes of Superman, then Tom Mix, then Jack Armstrong, the all-American boy, and you go from one to the next, and Captain Midnight. And I was raised on that. And so at one point in time, I guess, I'd get so absorbed in this that I didn't want to come out of it. I'd stay for 2-3 hours listening to that. Well, why don't we do this for Krishna? And I have kids. They listen to these children's Krishna book all day because all of the production values that we put into these. So I commend it. Please use it for your kids or for yourself. Yes?
Oh, the follow-up question, that was a very good job of answering the plug. I'm very satisfied with that.
Okay.
My question goes back to early in your talk about when you mentioned another yogi or fellow who was a genius speaker to the extent that he would speak for hours and hours.
Yes.
Expound.
Yeah, St. Vincent Farrar, his name.
St. Vincent
Farrar. Farrar, yeah.
Farrar.
You're not a real person.
Right. Now, do you think there's such a thing as a genius speaker? Do you think there's such a thing as a genius listener?
Yeah, well, I never heard that, but it sounds good to me. Genius listener is one who truly becomes absorbed and enwrapped and just literally takes it in. And not only that, but if a certain part of his brain is still active, in this particular age, that part is pretty inactive in many of us. But many of us will listen with such intentness, with such raptness that they can. Let me just mention. This Srimad Bhagavatam, it was recited, to a whole assembly of holy men. They didn't have tape recorders in those days. They listened with enwrapt attention, and they were able. Now, Sutta Goswami, who heard it from Shukdeva Goswami, he recited it verbatim. He was able to remember hours and hours of this. This went on for 7 days, by the way. He could remember it word for word. So that part of our brain has become somewhat vestigial, I guess.
Or atrophied.
Atrophied is a better word, yeah. So that's genius hearing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because the Greek tradition used to recite the Iliad. That takes like 15 hours, I think. And that's 7 days. Very impressive.
Yeah.
At least.
Are there any other? Yeah, it is. So that's genius hearing, but we can cultivate remembering more by concentration. As a result of TV today, especially, people are losing their concentrational power. You notice now how years ago, if you look at the movies from years ago, they'd run a scene for 5-10 minutes sometimes. Nowadays, it's 5 seconds cut. 5 seconds cut. That the plot is set up in such a way into 4 different parts. Like you cut here, and then leave off here, go here. Leave off here. So people don't get a chance to really focus. They can't anymore. And as a result of not being able to focus, unless something depends upon it, you're going for an examination, and your livelihood depends upon it, they'll focus. But if they don't have a motivation to do it, they often do not focus. And some of the drugs that are being taken, that gives them, it just literally destroys the mind.
Yeah. Do you think that with the advent of television, I know you said you grew up on radio before television existed, right?
Yes.
And do you think, having lived for a while, that the internet age and that having media readily available has magnified that tendency that television has, you've seen certain television?
No question about it.
Okay.
You see, people are becoming lazier and lazier. They want things done for them. We have technology, convenience, comfort, easiness. If you can get it to be done for you, that's better. But actually a person who's industrious, who appreciates the usefulness of his mind, he likes doing things himself. That's what we call motive goodness. Motive ignorance is, let somebody do it for me. Just lay back, sit back, 6-pack, just drink, and just drink until, and then fall asleep and wake up the next day with a hangover and so forth. That's part of American culture.
Are there any particular devotional activities? I think, is that the correct term?
The what?
Devotional activities?
In regard to what?
In regard to counterpoise.
Yes.
That are specific to, perhaps, the internet age?
You must do them if you want to save your life.
And are they specific ones, is what I'm asking that you find that you
The one that's prescribed for this age is what we've been doing. What this Prabhu was, he was leading the kirtan. Kirtan is, I'll give you a few little quotes. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, kalo nesteva, nesteva, nesteva gatiranita. To achieve God realization in this age of Kali, chant the holy name, chant the holy name, chant the holy name. There's no other way, no other way, no other way. There is no method of religion more sublime for this age of Kali than the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. That's from another Upanishad.
Okay.
And there's so many.
What's your rendering of Kali?
Age of Kali? This age is the age of darkness.
Oh, the age of darkness. Okay.
Yeah, it's age of darkness.
Okay.
Where people where ignorance takes over.
Thank you.
There's so many things going on. People killing their babies and things like that. So many. This is ignorance, and they don't understand. They have to pay a price for it. Any other questions from this side of the room?
Yes, some prices on the discs.
Huh?
Can you give some prices on the discs?
Oh yeah, there's a sheet. If somebody like to pass out these sheets,
I'll do that.
Everyone can do, and then you can have that.
Anyone want that? Anyone else want one?
Aren't you great? You can all take prasadam too. You want to put that in your pocket before you leave? You're welcome to. You want one of these? No, the camera.